Hey, Year 11, 2020 end of topic test, question 2A, part 2. So this question here says to give a prediction for the number of dogs you might have been caught in the second quarter of 2016. So the final recording here is the first quarter of 2016, and justify your answer. Okay, so if we go back to this time series graph, we talked about this in the last question in terms of the quarters. So there's 4 quarters in a year. So if we just have a look at, 2018, this is the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter is kind of somewhere there. So if you notice that each of them, the second quarter is always the highest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's always the highest. So we're always looking for the highest one. Now, so we can see here that the trend is kind of on its way down. We know that for starters, but probably not that significantly. So for the previous year, we had a high here in the second quarter of about, what was that, about 450. Over here, we had a high here of about 600. We don't want to assume that there's going to be that significant much of a drop, but we do want to give a pretty good accurate. So we know it's going to be higher than this, so it's potentially going to be up here around 400, maybe 400 to 450 would probably be a good estimate for that second quarter there. Okay, so then we'd say somewhere between maybe give an actual one, so I'm going to say 400. So an estimated number, 400, because, and then we might say something like the second quarter is 150 to 200 higher than the first quarter. So if we go back and have a look at that again, so the first quarter here is, and this is always about 150 higher. So that one's only about 50 higher, but normally it's about 150 higher, 150 higher, 150 higher. So we would expect that to sit about 150 higher than 300. So about 400 to 450 would be expected. And then you can say something like that in the most recent years, so recently the gap is more like 100, difference, if you want to justify giving 400 instead of 450. Okay, so that's good justification. Now, if you give a reasonable estimate here, that would have been a U, so an achieved mark, but for that justification, that is a reasonable justification that gives you the R there. Now, quite a few of you gave numbers like 200. I think you were thinking that the second quarter was like the middle of the year. I'm not quite sure, because even that's too low. But yeah, so quite a few of you got that wrong because you were just giving numbers that were far too low. So just probably more of a representative of not understanding what a quarter means. So I hope that makes sense.